welcome. Happy Wednesday. We are back with another podcast, and I am so excited about this topic to dive in. I think you guys will get a lot of great tips and insights from our special guest. Pavan, do you want to introduce her?
Our special guest today is Dr. Megan Nguyen. So we have a genuine doctor who spent a lot more time in school than I have. And there's a lot, probably 2,000 IQ points higher than me, which is amazing. And doctor, I'm going to have to do this old joke. So my elbow hurts when I move it like this. What should I do, doc?
What did you do in the last 24 hours? First question.
You see, there's a real doctor, completely by the book, step by step.
Well, gathering history is a big component of understanding what's
Exactly. Now the next component is I'm going to get a bill for like $2,000, right, for that little bit of advice.
Depends on what insurance you have, but
another sign that she's a good doctor. There we go. Knows all about insurance. But all kidding aside, Dr. Megan Nguyen is get this right, is not a medical doctor, but a doctor of psychology. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Okay.
I hold a PhD in developmental sciences with a specialty in educational psychology.
Okay. So, and she specializes, it's an incredible history and fascinating how she got into this industry, but she specializes in helping realtors and loan officers and professionals deal with stress. And this is a stressful time in the market for many people. Mortgage and just loan volumes are down to the lowest, I think, ever, and interest rates keep going up higher and higher. Last week, we saw the 10-year touching 5%, and Jamie Dimon was on Fox Business talking about he expects the 10-year to see hitting 7% in the near future. That means mortgage rates in 9 or 10%. Like, oh my God, we were talking about mortgage Armageddon. So what is going on here? And it's time to bring in the good doctor, Dr. Nguyen.
We need reinforcements.
Right. To teach us how to survive, at least, right, winning in any sport, in any game, in anything in life. Winning is here, right? It starts in here. You got to win in your head, and then you can win in the task that you're doing. So now Dr. Nguyen has, I'm going to let you, the name of your program is called what?
Golden Sheep Life Coaching is the name of my coaching firm.
Okay. So it's Golden Sheep Life Coaching. So when I talked to Dr. Nguyen last week, and she told me the name, and the first thing that went through my head was, wow, like Greek mythology, I just thought of right away the golden fleece. And any of you other nerds out there that read all this kind of stuff, like Homer and stuff like that, would know all about the golden fleece. I actually read Homer back in college. So I was like, that's incredible. Because to own the golden fleece, you had to be basically a god or a demigod to get that privilege. And so I said, I'm talking to a god, could be a god, we don't know, but I'm talking to a doctor who's going to make us all into God and give us all our own golden fleece.
Tall order to fill. So thank you for that introduction.
Well, look, one of the things, the basic philosophy that my brand has, and our tagline is, nothing is beyond reach, because we're all magical beings. So we're all can be a god. We can all be Hercules and Jason and Zeus and all that other fun stuff.
It sounds like you have a growth mindset, which is
yes, absolutely. Have to have a growth. Anything is possible. Nothing is beyond reach. And so I've done enough talking, and we're here to not hear me, but to hear Dr. Nguyen. And I'm going to ask you a few questions just to kind of get the audience to understand him. She's got a great story. Tell us a little bit about your background, Dr. Nguyen, Where did he grow up? And how did he decide to become a doctor?
Absolutely. So my story is not that unique. I grew up in the suburbs of Houston, Katy, Texas. I'm the only child of Vietnamese American parents. So they figured they got one right, and so they didn't need to make any more. Golden child here. No, just kidding. But no, I'm the oldest of a bunch of cousins, but only child. Went to school, did the whole tour of Texas to gather education and training. Started off at the University of Houston, specializing in cognitive psychology and elementary education and neuroscience. And what all of that mumbo jumbo summarizes to is that I fell in love with understanding how little minds worked. How did memory function? How do they develop across the lifespan? And so
wait a minute. You say little minds, you mean like little minds like mine? My mind is really small.
Not necessarily in size, more like developmental stage.
You're talking about children.
Little kiddos, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Got it.
And I love the creative aspect of how they learn. And so that launched me into realizing that, hey, I need more schooling and I need to go to grad school. And so that took me to Baylor University in Waco. And I got my master's there, continuing that same line of work. And it took one single rotation at Texas Children's Hospital to see that, hey, if I dive into this clinical world of doing therapy, I can not only implement research, but also have a teaching component, which is something that's really passionate to me as well. And so I pivoted, switched gears, and launched into a whole clinical psychology training path. And so finished out, went to residency for a year, came back, and now actually with the demand of what the referrals have been with clients and whatnot, it just, life gave me lemons. And I thought, you know what, let's make some frozen lemonade with this. And so I launched my own coaching firm, and it's called Golden Sheep Life Coaching, because all my life I had to fight to do this. No one really knew what a pediatric psychologist was in my family. And so I was like, no, this is worth it. I want to help kids. I want to contribute. And this is how I put my footstep, like the mark of me, onto this globe. And so my parents were like, okay, I guess, she's studying, but what is she studying? So I never felt like I was Asian enough or American enough. Like, what is even American? We're a big melting pot of a country. So every milestone that I ever achieved was never achieved by being like the social norm, right, of any culture. So I'm like, you know what, black sheep, white sheep, I choose to be a golden sheep. And I don't think my story, as I said in the beginning, is very unique. I think there are many people that feel the way I feel, that they belong to one group, not fully, kind of belong to the other, but then there's a part of them that's their own too. And so I'm going to devote my entire career to looking for more golden sheeps out there, because I was my first testimony. So if I exist, more exist, right? You don't have to follow a mold. You are you. So that's...
Again, going back to accepting that we're all magical in our own unique way.
Yes. So you were onto something even before we met.
Yeah. So I'm so glad that you're a pediatric psychologist, because I'm just a big kid.
Love it. Aren't we all?
And Angel doesn't need any she doesn't need a psychiatric help because she's an AI. Right, Angel?
Right, exactly. Yeah. I was programmed to perfection.
Now the day comes when an AI needs a psychiatric assistance, then we got real trouble. So now how did you before we get, so obviously you're not doing pediatrics now, you're actually working with adults, and you're working with realtors and loan officers, and you've had great success in that, working with professionals and coaching professionals to be more successful. And you've had great success doing that. So tell me about some of the really interesting cases that you've dealt with in your career.
So a case that I will never forget is a 16-year-old male that I had met in clinic. And prior to this new chapter, I was in love, not in love with the fact that patients were in pain, but in love with treating and understanding and bettering patients' lives from chronic pain conditions. And so my work there led me to meeting this particular patient. And this was unfortunately, it wasn't a unique case, because that's what chronic pain is. It's long-standing pain where x-rays are not showing any broken bones, there's no tissue damage, and yet the pain is very real that this patient has been dealing with. And as humans, we don't function and develop alone. We work in systems of other humans. And oftentimes in a kiddo's life, that's usually the family that you live in, siblings, caregivers, and whatnot. And so not only was this an interesting dynamic, this was a family that really didn't trust the medical system to begin with. And they had voiced that in the very first intake session to say, we don't trust the medical system. And to be really honest, we've seen so many specialists, gone through so many medical testing, trials, had so many history being gathered. Time and again, they've told their story. And time and again, their child's still in pain. This was a boy that was a star athlete, star basketball player at his high school. And now he wasn't even able to walk. But again, x-rays weren't showing anything. MRI showed nothing. And so I had to come in as not only the last stop for any type of medical intervention, but imagine if your child was in pain and someone threw a psychologist on them. The message is, it's all in your head. When that's not entirely false, because what had happened with this patient was he actually had nerve damage. And so if you have a runny nose and I keep giving you Pepto-Bismol, which is a stomach medication or an upset stomach medication, that's not going to cure anything, right? Because your nose is still going to be running. Actually, you may get even more sick. And so pain medication, physical therapy was not doing anything for this poor young man because it was the wrong treatment. And so we took it as an approach of maybe your nerves are misfiring. Maybe your brain and your body, the mind-body connection, there's a miscommunication here. And so pain exists so we can protect ourselves. To, hey, if you keep walking, your leg's going to fall off. But in this case, he wasn't in danger. And so his fire alarm system was off. And so we approached it as a nerve damage issue. And on the psychology end, really processing how all this has been for him and beginning the process of forming a behavioral change plan for him. Because if I told you, hey, go train for a marathon. Overall, you know what to do. You have to eat healthier, you have to be consistent with working out, but where do you even begin? And so that's what I do, not only from the psychology end, but as a coach, making a dream into a goal into an action plan, and an action plan into a progress monitoring plan. So we know we're moving forward. And if we're not, why is that not happening? So
were you able to cure this patient?
It depends on what you mean by cure. And so oftentimes when we think about chronic health conditions, especially pain, we think about, are you the doctor that can get rid of my pain? And the first thing I told this patient and their caregivers was, your pain may never go away. And they looked at me like really taken aback to say, like, why are we wasting your time? But I said, well, hold on. Because that's the reality, is that if you accept that maybe this condition, it may not go away, but how you handle it is going to be in a different way, maybe the needle will start to move at that time. And maybe, just maybe, if we introduce enough interventions and techniques and approaches that are different than what you've tried before, maybe, just maybe, we'll begin to turn that pain dial down a little bit. And maybe you'll start to coexist with the pain. Relative to the population we're talking to and about now, the market is going to be the market. So how the hell do we navigate a market that is completely wild? And how do we make sense of how to deal with it when we have no sense of controlling it or even regulating it at any point? Just like my patient. And so it's addressing it in a really different way and being prepared for it.
Okay, so what's the status of this patient today, if you know?
I don't know, because I don't text my patients after they leave the clinic, but I do know that I don't know if he ever came back to playing competitive basketball, But I do know that he started to walk from his house down the block, from his house around the corner. And actually, in our last session, he was able to jog half a mile. And so it's getting control back of your life. And your life may not look the same, but it doesn't have to look the way it did when it was really, really bad. So life changes and it ebbs and flows. And so who knows, maybe he's back to training for marathons and playing basketball, but he was able to move again. And I think sometimes it's about movement. It's not about getting to the finish line.
So when he came to you, he literally was debilitated, could not move.
He could move, but he wasn't moving because any movement was putting him in excruciating pain.
Got it. So went from basically not being able to move to jogging.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think right now, I think that metaphor, or that analogy, I think there's a lot of agents, a lot of loan officers who are feeling like they can't move. Like, what do I do next? They're feeling paralyzed by the situation around them. And I'm assuming you get clients, you get patients coming to you, professional patients coming to you that are in that kind of mindset.
Yeah, most definitely. Again, pain, stress, all the negative quote unquote emotions that we have are built in for a reason. And oftentimes when people say, oh, I hate dealing with my feelings, or I hate emotions, or I hate dealing with another person's feelings, it's not the feelings we hate, because how do you hate it? Like, what is that even? What we really have the ick for is not knowing what to do with it. And so I want everyone here, if you hear one thing from this podcast, is that emotions give us direction of what to do and where to go. So if you think of like street lights, green tells you to go, yellow tells you to slow down. Emotions tell us the same thing. If we're stressed and we're avoiding a situation, that's telling us that we're stressed and our body is trying to protect us. And so we almost have to counteract that to say, it's okay, it's not dangerous, and now we have to really face this, because the longer we go avoiding, the scarier the beast becomes. And the beast in this case is anxiety. So when we're faced with a stressful situation, our brain goes into fight or flight mode. So we either attack the situation, we either fight the person, we go head on to a point of like overexhaustion, or we flight or flee and we fly away. And that's the avoidance piece.
And I'm going to make a commentary. I was having this conversation with another loan officer over the weekend. And I think our culture puts too much emphasis on stoicism. And again, another Greek philosophy. There's too much value added to sort of the ideal person that is emotionless and it's all business and you know, sort of the perfect mental state at all times. Mm-hmm. Okay. But that's not human. It's not possible. And I think what you're saying here makes perfect sense. And I think we overvalue having that kind of presentation to the point where I think in itself adds anxiety. I think a lot of professionals want to have that perfect center and want to deny their emotions. Mm-hmm. And want to deny that they have these feelings. And my advice to this loan officer was, hey, why don't you start the conversation instead by saying, I'm feeling this. Right? Yeah, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling angry. And just let the other party or parties know, this is my current state of mind. Okay, and now let's work through it. That was my advice to her. And Doc, what do you think? Did I do the right thing?
I think communicating about it is great, because when we internalize, which means we keep it in, it comes out in other ways. It may not be you explode, like you yell at someone, but we carry stress in our bodies. We do. The way we breathe, the tension that we have. Sometimes like when you just like, if someone prompts you to breathe and you're like, whoa, I actually was holding in that breath. We constantly, even if we don't feel it, we carry the stress. And if we carry a stress and over time, there's even more things, eventually that's going to take a toll on us. And people in this industry or anywhere, but especially in this industry, they're result-oriented people. And so after a while, it's going to take a toll. And if you're not selling, or if you're not performing, again, integral part of this career path, it's not going to fly. It's just not. And so there's serious implications for that. But I think, to your point, communicating with it is great, and having the discussions that need to be, had is important. But I think one thing to add too is the timing. Are you ready to have this conversation? One. And is the other person ready to receive what you're about to say? Right? Because if you want to talk about it, but if you're very heated in that moment, or you're very quote unquote emotional, you may need to sit with the feelings, because in 24 hours, those feelings may transpire to something else. And you also may need that second to organize. If you're like, okay, I'm really mad and I need to communicate this with this guy. Like, seriously, this is not okay. Right? And it's not about denying it, but it's about delaying it, right? Delay, not deny, is what I always say. And likewise, if you're like, okay, I'm calm, cool, and collected, I'm about to go tell my boss how I feel, but the guy is super stressed and he's on like 6 different calls and he's not even listening to you, just saying hi, that doesn't really lead to an effective conversation.
Yeah. One of the things that I try to do personally is I have a couple of people that I can talk to unfiltered.
Excuse me.
And that kind of solves the problem. So if I'm like out of control, I'll go to them.
Perfect.
And they're like, and they know that there's just ignore everything I say when I'm out of control.
But you have your safe space. You have your space where you process it, let it, you know what I mean? Right. So that's good.
Yeah, one of those people I go to is AngelAi. I say, AngelAi, I'm mad at you.
To clarify, not me.
Yeah, not this angel. That's the best thing about computers. They don't care if you're mad at them.
But I think you said something that's also really important in the stress management web too, is that social support is really important too. So if you have a friend that will listen to you, or at least just give you that venting space, even if they don't say a word, that works for you. And there's a reason why it works. It's because we as human beings are social creatures.
Yeah. So let's say I'm a realtor right now. I'm super stressed out because, my listings aren't moving, or I'm just not getting enough. I'm a buyer's agent, and I get enough buyers that qualify. What's your advice? How do you walk me through this? Or I know in a nutshell, you can't obviously do this in a 30-minute podcast, but what's your approach, and how is this process in your Golden Sheep program? How does this process work?
Sure. So before we roll up our sleeves and jump into fixing the problem, we have to understand the chessboard. We have to understand the pieces, and we have to understand where everybody's at on that board. And I think that's a critical step that people miss, is that you're like, okay, yeah, let's throw in the therapy. Here's the theories. This is your behavior plan. So the first thing I do with any client, it doesn't matter what the presenting issue is, but especially with stress, I have them introduce themselves to themselves again. Because oftentimes we try to fix problems as who we think we are or were. And so who are you today? We just had a huge global pandemic. All of our values at some point or another it's been shifted. And so who are you today? Who is AngelAi today? Who's Pavan today? Okay. Because why that's important is because the person you are today is going to be the person that sees the problem the way it is and handles it the way it is, for better or worse. So we have a grounding mechanism of saying, okay, where are we at? And then next, we understand your stress. How long has it been happening? Is there a theme to your stress? Is it a person? Is it really not like the stress itself? Is it just how you perceive and receive the stress? So you and I will take a box of Legos, which is the stress, and we'll dump it onto a table, and we're going to sort it out, see what we're dealing with here. So I really like analogies, if you couldn't tell by now. But we sort the Legos, and from there we build. We break down fundamentally what you are and what you've been doing with the stress, and we build you back up in a different way. Because the essence of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And so if how you're coping with your stress now is not working, and typically it's not because that's why they're here with me, let's do something differently. And after we deassemble, we look at it in a way of prevention, not reacting. So when we think of stress, we think of it as a fire. We're like, oh my gosh, how do we put out the fire? I'm stressed, make it go away. But the most powerful intervention of stress is preventing it, which means you have to self-care, which means you have to make sure that when the fire does happen, it doesn't go up to a 10. You control the intensity levels. And that means you have to be right. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to understand the situation that you're in and really not make things worse for yourself.
Yeah, and I want to point out that I think that some of the people that are watching this are probably sitting here thinking, oh, well, Dr. Nguyen isn't for me because I'm the #1 producer in my market. And this kind of stuff is for the guys who are struggling. And the reality is Dr. Nguyen takes #1 producers and helps them and coaches them to increase their mindset and to better manage their situation. So they go from being #1 to, whatever, #0, I guess. I don't know what's above #1, right? So your client base is more so the bigger producers who want to continue to rise up the charts and up the national ranking. And they need new tools and new capabilities, because whatever you are, whether you're #1, #10, #50, #100, you got to go to the next notch up. And doing whatever you're doing today, doing the same thing over and over again, is not going to get you next notch up. At most, it'll keep you sustained, and staying in the same spot in itself is stressful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is where Dr. Nguyen's techniques really come into play. Is it helps everyone go up the next notch, or 2 notch, or 10 notches. Right. And if you're already the top notch, there's always more production. Right. It's still, even in a down industry right now, it's still a $1.2 trillion industry. And tell me one realtor or one loan officer who wouldn't want to fund $1.2 trillion this year. Who would not want to do $1.2 trillion?
I have this theory, and I'm so glad you brought that question up, because you're right. When you think of a coach or a therapist, you think of someone with a problem. Usually a problem that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't control this. I can't fix it. I need help. But I think you asked a very brilliant question of, well, I don't have a problem. I'm coasting. I'm fine. My stress is fine. It's where it needs to be. Well, I have this theory that the essence of unhappiness and dissatisfaction isn't actually someone who just had like something catastrophically bad happen. You see people with terrible situations be so grateful and be happy. You see people who have everything that are completely miserable. Why? Because the essence of unhappiness is feeling stuck with wherever you are, whether you feel like you're stuck in your $3 million a year job or making $3 an hour at wherever you are, right? And so I think even if you're happy now and you're content, if you don't grow and continue to have challenges and new projects and evolve, that's not really living a fulfilled life. And you may be fulfilled now, but if you are open to being like, you know what, I'm good and I want to be excellent. And if I'm excellent, I want to continue being excellent. I'm the coach for you. And of course, there's overlap between a therapist and a psychologist, right? And a coach. But essentially, a coach is someone who sees what you can be and helps you form a concrete plan that's specific to you and you only, and makes that happen if you're willing to put in the work alongside me.
Now, you're in the Austin area?
Yes, I am. Austin, Texas.
Okay. Now, do you do this virtually on Zoom, or do you only do it in face-to-face? How does this work?
I do both. So it depends on the client, it depends on the need, but I do both. I do one-on-one coaching, and I also do wellness workshops for different organizations, corporate settings, nonprofit health clinics, and whatnot as well, which I really enjoy because it brings back that teaching and education component that I really loved in my years in grad school.
Okay, so do you still work with kids as well?
I do actually. I'm in the works right now with local school districts to hopefully do some parent training on how to navigate, how to be a parent for driven teenagers trying to get into college, and how to support them, give them the space, but then also guide them, and that balancing game of being a parent. And likewise, hopefully doing workshops with the teenagers to be like, how do we navigate our overbearing parents who mean the best for us, but also parents. So it's like a seesaw.
Yeah, see, I wasn't a driven teenager. I was just running around on my skateboard.
But
Listen to heavy metal.
You're also a golden sheep because you paved your own way, and now you're showcasing so many interesting stories to help so many different people. So you didn't follow the white sheep mold. You weren't a black sheep, you are a golden sheep.
I become golden by the company I keep.
Yeah.
So bottom line is you help unleash the inner god or goddess in all of us.
Wow.
And we are all capable of attaining the golden fleece.
I make going to Olympus a tangible task.
Actually attainable.
Like, okay.
Actually attainable.
End of podcast call. Truly, I think oftentimes as adults, we stop dreaming because that's how our brains protect us. Because if you dream, you let your mind go to places that may not be possible. But what if you start there, you dream again, and then you start to cut out the things that you are willing to sacrifice or are willing to go for, and then you start concretely forming a to-do list, guidelines, deadlines, someone holding you accountable, me. And
that's really incredible the way you said that, because if you look at small children, and they dream about everything, and they don't know anything is, for them everything is possible, and they're so happy.
Yeah, right. They are, and we stop, and so we fence ourselves into this box of should, could, would, always, never, forever, these absolute words that quite frankly should just be removed from the English dictionary, truly, because it limits us, right? And when you're stuck and you box yourself in, you're limiting the potential for you to get out of that, right? And so even just describing that to you sounds sad.
Yeah. So in other words, if in your market you're number 50, you don't have to be number 50. You could be number 49, number 40, number 20, right?
Or instead of a ranking, you can just be better than what you were yesterday. And instead of a ranking, what does 49 mean? 49 means you're making more money. Okay, how much more money do you need to make? 49 means you're better than yesterday. How else are you going to be a better agent than yesterday? You sell more houses? Is it quantity? Is it quality? Is it being able to be in a lifestyle where you're not rich, but you buy yourself freedom of not being, working to live? Right? And so what does moving up in the world mean to you? And so if you look at it in a different way, you may not go from 50 to 49, you may go to 50 to number 5, because you are not thinking about the ranks, you are thinking about the quality of the effort that you're putting in, and it aligns with your values and your whys. And how can someone not be unstoppable if they look at it like that?
That's amazing.
Right?
That's really good advice. That's really good advice.
I just, like when I was very unhealthy in grad school because grad school is stressful. And I was like, I need to get fit because I can't be preaching all these like wellness and self-care things to people if I don't live it, right? Like, what a hypocrite. And so I put my mind to it. I attempted. But one of the things that I learned was being fixated on losing fat and weight loss didn't get me anywhere. But just focusing on, okay, you know what? I'm just going to eat less processed foods. I'm not going to label food as healthy or not healthy. I asked myself, okay, how do I make this dish more nourishing? So when you switch your mentality, I lost 30 pounds in 3 months. And I'm a foodie, so that was really hard. But you see, when you don't fixate on the outcome, but you fixate on the quality of the effort that you put in, the results will come. They will.
Okay, Sam, if you're watching this, I know you're on a challenge to lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks. There you go, Sam. Sam, Luther, and Edwin. They did a
All golden
6-week
sheep.
challenge. They did a 6-week challenge to lose 20 pounds. But Sam's lost 7 already. So I think he's the only one who's going to make the challenge.
Slowly but surely. It's really not
Yeah.
about the intensity of your change, it's the consistency of the change. So
Yeah. Yes. All
And I
right.
love, Megan, you said something about change earlier when we were talking just before the podcast, which is counterintuitive because most of the time we think we don't like change and no one likes change. But you said the opposite. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what we were all talking about.
absolutely. We all, to some capacity, love change. Despite what we say, we do love it. What we don't like is change we didn't ask for and change that we're not prepared for. So we all love getting a new car. We all love getting those, new things that we chose to change. But when we got that new car and the weather app says it wasn't supposed to rain and we pull out of the driveway and it's pouring rain, then we're like, oh my gosh, what the hell? So a lot of times it's about just embracing that life is always going to change and it's always going to throw you a wild card. It will always do that. And so you can choose to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't plan for this, which I will admit I say that probably once a day. Or you can say, I didn't change for that. I'm going to roll with it because such is life. And I'm not going to lose another line of wrinkle over this because life be life. Truly. Have you noticed the people that are the most calm, the people that you're like, whoa, you are so grounded. How do I be like you? Those are the people that no matter what life throws at them, they're like, I'm going to be okay. So I honestly think, I was talking to my friend about this last night, like I honestly think the people that have figured out, cracked the code of zenness in life are the people that just have welcomed the chaos. Like, bring it, come on, so.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, we have all survived 100% of the things that have stressed us out, right?
Oh
That's a
God.
pretty good rate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And think about what we went through during the pandemic. Talk about like a global WTF for everybody in the world, whether you are a world leader to somebody working at Starbucks to a life coach like me, everyone's life had to pivot. And look at us now, battered and bruised, but here we are.
But survived.
Yes. Pink says, we're not broken, just bent.
I love it.
Yeah.
So have you ever had to give therapy to an AI before?
I have not. And I've been hearing a lot of studies where participants are put in front of an AI versus like a real human therapist, and people are not telling the difference. So this is quite terrifying, actually. That AI.
That's a little scary. I'd never heard about that.
Yeah. My friend did a clinical trial, and he actually got a human, but another one of his friends got the AI bot, and they could not tell. Like, they got the same questions, the same reaction. Like it was just, technology is advancing, and as much as we'd like to fight it, again, it's the change. It's here. It's coming, and so we got to just figure out how to hop on board.
Actually, not that surprising, because psychology, medicine, law, it's such a very regulated and structured industry, right? So the data, because there's so much good, clean data and clinical notes. Right? So the training data is so clear and refined that it's actually not surprising that the AI was right.
Yeah.
Because all they did was they just took, volumes and volumes of clinical notes and trained the AI with it, because it's the doctor that did every single one. So it's what people don't understand, that the quality of the AI and the accuracy of the AI depends on the accuracy of the data that's fed to it.
Sure.
Okay. So if you have trained it, if you trained a large language model on clean information, like, for example, clinical notes of a doctor. Or another place that AI is having a huge impact is software engineering, because there's so much clean code out there for it to learn from, that for it to construct new software is simple, because there's already this huge mass volume of work. Because just like clinical notes, software code, right, it's either right or wrong. There's nothing in between.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I'm kind of geeking out a little bit, but explaining the theory, I think, for the people that are listening,
Mhm.
is the future of the world is the value is not on what you do. The value is on your data. So keep your notes, keep your information, and that's the most valuable asset you have. Don't share that. Don't let it leak. That defines your existence of your business.
Right.
How you do things and how you approach things and how you respond. So if you're a realtor or a loan officer listening to this, how you talk to your clients, how you respond to your clients in different situations, right? That is you. That's what defines your market. That's how you capture your business. Keep those notes. Keep that data. Keep it to yourself, because that's what people will use to take away your clients from you in the future. Data is the most valuable thing. There was a company, I think it was Instacart or somebody, that went IPO recently, like within the last 60 days. And it was a tech company, great technology. But the whole valuation of the company wasn't on their tech or even on the customer base. It was based on their data, because they had such extensive data about their customers' habits. And so, we have to start rethinking of what's valuable, where the value is being created, and what's valuable in our professions. We have to start, given the new technology, we have to start, again, change.
Sure.
This is change, and then it's better to embrace change, to understand what's coming.
Right.
If you have someone advising you that's saying, hey, this is the future, this is what it looks like, and this is what's valuable in the future. Yes, what you're doing today is valuable today, but you have to be aware of what's valuable tomorrow, so you can pivot early. So my job, being an expert in AI, my job is to get the information out there and advise people to pivot now and rethink how they are doing their business. And even if that is a message that may be uncomfortable, or sometimes people don't like the message I'm saying because they don't want the change, right? Because now it's something new to learn.
Right.
And people aren't used to thinking about their lives, their profession, their business as data. But at the end of the day, it is, we're in the information age, and it's called the information age for a reason.
Right.
It starts with the information.
Yeah. And I think what you said really aligned with my message earlier as well, is that we can't approach all of this stuff that we're discussing here reactively, right? Like, not after the fact, or like, oh, it's more of preventing and being prepared for what is to come. And essentially, that's kind of getting a grip on your anxiety and your stress as well. Because what happens is, when we hear, oh, now I have to learn AI, this is something that I have no idea with, or, I'm not really good at technology, or the younger generation is going to surpass me. How am I going to compete? On top of this massive pile of stress that I already have dealing with this market, that's a lot for someone to process all in one. And so, okay, how do we break it down? How do we get ahead of it? And if we break it down, we can start learning it, right? And the only way to get over it is through, and it's by doing the thing. That's the only way.
Yeah.
But it's tough.
That's a good segue for Angel. Not AngelAi, but Angel Elliott. That's a good segue for Angel to talk about how can someone learn more about AI.
Yes. Well, the good news with AngelAi is that it is very easy to just pick up and start using. I think that's probably the thing I repeat more than anything else, is you can talk to AngelAi just like you were talking to a person. So you really don't have to memorize any specific prompts or ways to structure your questions or your requests. It's really just like you're talking to a person. In fact, I think, Pavan, that was one of the really important things for you when you were designing it, is making sure that it was easy to use, that your mom could use it, right?
That's exactly right. That's the true test if a technology is matured enough, is can grandma use? And my mom is definitely a grandmother.
And she uses it, right?
She does.
So, although it is very easy to pick up and use, I have all the faith in the world in our viewers that you'd be able to just go to angelai.com and figure it out. We do offer daily workshops. We keep them really small groups so that you can ask questions, you can be hands-on in the system. They're over Zoom, so you can have one window watching the workshop and another window open, following along and actually getting your feet wet using the system. So it'll give you some good ideas of how you can integrate AI into your business, also get you some practice and help you get comfortable. So if you go to angelai.com, there's a button that says click here for workshop registration, and we offer them daily. We've broken them up so that you can attend a session that is really specific to what you do. So whether you are a realtor or a broker, loan originator, the workshop's going to be focused on what you are doing for a living. So definitely join us for a workshop. It's just 1 hour of your time, and in that time you can become an Angel AI expert. And if you want to just jump in and try it out, just click on Ask Angel AI now, and it's going to bring you right into Angel AI. And then you just hit let's chat and start talking to her. You can even ask her for a t-shirt, and she will send you a free Angel AI t-shirt. So if you're watching and you're not in the mortgage and real estate industry, stay tuned, because there's a lot of stuff that, that everyone will be able to use, but you can use that right now and say, I want a t-shirt, and she will send you a t-shirt.
Noted.
Yeah. So next time we talk, Dr. Nguyen, you're going to be wearing an Angel AI t-shirt, right?
Yes, sir. Because it's going to be in person.
Exactly. Are you coming to Mindset Summit on, what is it, Thursday, right?
It's
in Dallas?
Thursday in Dallas.
No, unfortunately, I actually have a whole stack of clients that day.
Oh, come on. I'm more important than your clients.
You are equally important.
Oh, you should have been a diplomat. Look at that.
Words matter.
Yeah, so to Pavan's point, we have we're taking part in a very exciting event on Thursday called the Mindset Summit. So go to mindsetsummit.com if you would like more information. It's Thursday in Dallas. But if you follow Mindset Summit, you'll see future events that they have coming up. So
Yes, and because you've tuned in to watch this podcast, I will give you the special code. So if you use this coupon code at mindsetsummit.com, you can get in, I think it's $100 normally, you get in for free.
ooh,
And the coupon code is MindsetFree, all caps, one word, MINDSETFREE. If you use that coupon code, you get in for free. And that's special $100 value, special gift for you for watching this podcast today. Yay.
Yay.
You know, I get an idea, Megan. Now that you know the special code to Mindset Summit, you can bring all of your clients with you to Mindset Summit. And therefore, you kill two birds with one stone.
that everyone wins.
Yes. And since you said I am equally important.
A field trip to Dallas.
Field trip. Oh my gosh, that would be so interesting. All the clients meeting. That would be fun.
This feels like the premise of a movie, a comedy.
Yeah.
Like a bad one that's so funny that you shouldn't be laughing, but you are. And you're like, this is so bad, I'll just finish it. Like, yeah.
So bad that it's good.
Yeah, so bad, but it's good. I did have a question for you all, because actually before I went I launched myself into this coaching world, I really actually wasn't familiar with it because I was in this clinical bubble during grad school and training in academic medical centers. So I didn't know much about it actually. When you both think of a coach, what do you think of? Like a life coach, for example.
Well, I think of people like Bill Pipes or Tom Ferry, who that's the experience with coaches that I've had, which basically they get in your head and they get you motivated and ready to go and just charge ahead, right? And like me personally, like my challenge is when there's always going to be setbacks in whatever project you're doing, and to say, okay, hey, whatever happened, that was yesterday, right? You can't change the past. Let's focus on tomorrow. And so that's always like, it always helps to have someone, for me, it always helps to have someone to say, hey, let's, we've gone a long way. So yeah, you look at this, you took 5 steps forward. So what, you took 1 step backwards.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Right. You're still net 4 ahead.
Right.
Right. And sometimes it just helps to just have that conversation with somebody. So just kind of reset your mind and go.
Sure. Absolutely. But I'm sure you had to have practice to get where you were. Or were you just born very positive?
Oh yeah, you know me. I was just
fresh out the womb.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Ready to go. Rock and roll.
What about you, Angel? When you talk about, like, what comes to mind, good or bad, when you're like life coach?
Life coach, I mean, for any coach, as Pavan's saying, the mindset, the motivation, whether it's a life coach, a sports coach, whatever it is, there's the motivational piece. I think accountability, making sure you go to practice, making sure you do those things that you've identified are going to get you from point A to point Z. And then I think, Megan, you said it earlier as well, like breaking down what are the steps to get you there. You have this goal, your coach doesn't assign you the goal because it has to be something that is intrinsically motivating for you that you want to reach, right? But the coach helps you break it down and says, these are all of the things you need to learn or do to exercise those muscles that are going to get you there.
Sure, sure. And that's the exciting thing about this coaching world is it leaves room for creativity and flexibility. Anyone can be a coach. But I hope to be the anchor that uses science-rooted approaches and techniques that help people. And what does that even mean? What is science-rooted? Well, it just means there's a group of people that care enough to do research that's built on one another, right? Like you did a study, so I'm going to build on your study to make it better. And then Angel's going to build off my study, right? It's the gold standard for the golden sheeps. So if anybody's like, what is this crazy person talking about? Or golden sheeps, is that like a butcher or what? Please head to my website. I know Pavan's going to include that in the caption below. But take a look at my website. And I have a little Instagram page, Golden Sheep Life Coaching, where I post like little snippets of different things, like how to realistically self-care when you're busy. Or what's the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence, which people interchangeably use that, but there's difference. And how to deal with infidelity, or what is breadcrumbing in a relationship, and how to just navigate change that you didn't ask for. So little tidbits like that.
Love it. So Instagram, Golden Sheep Life Coaching. And what is your website?
www.goldensheeplifecoaching.com.
All right. We'll put it in the chat here as well. It'll be in the details of this YouTube video. Living on forever.
Thank you for having me. And for anyone watching, if you're looking for a change strategist, that's essentially what I do. And that's why I wanted to get, a sense of where you both thought coaching was, because I didn't even know what a life coach was. I'm like, is that someone who gives you advice? ? And if you were looking for someone to mentor you or just give you life advice, that would be grandma, grandpa, right? But a coach is someone who fundamentally breaks down what you are now to launch you into what you can be, if you're willing to put in that work. So why stay stuck in good when you can be excellent? And I am the who to your how to get you to your what.
And then if you're already excellent, why stay stuck in excellent when you can be a god? That's what Megan will make
That
you.
too. Why be human when you can be immortal? according
Yes,
to
right. Exactly. Megan has the cure for immortality.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I want to get some weird
We'll
messages.
put some disclaimers in the notes too.
Yes, please. I want to get some weird messages after that. Or great ones. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, check your DMs after.
Yeah, but give me a follow, send questions, send arguments, disagreements, whatever it may be. Start the question, right? Start the process. It's breaking that inertia is the hardest part. So
Excellent.
All right.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Megan. This was very insightful, a lot of fun.
Great session. Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Cheers.